Aston Martin's Spanish Grand Prix was a real mixed bag. On the positive side, Fernando Alonso drove a decent race, recovering from a trip into the gravel to finish in 9th position, courtesy of Max Verstappen's 10-second penalty. On the opposite side though, they only had one driver in the race, and Lance Stroll is being accused of yet another outburst in the team's garage, as well as breaking FIA procedure after qualifying. With a wrist injury making it impossible for the Canadian to race in Barcelona, the surgery to repair the problem could keep him out of his home race in a week's time. Today, I'll check out what happened with Lance Stroll, whether you should believe what the media is saying about him, and what the team plans to do going forward. So don't go anywhere. It's been a tough season so far for Aston Martin. Actually, it's been a tough 24 months. After that incredible start to 2023, the team has been going downhill with no breaks. The positives of the new factory, the signing of Adrian Newey, and the announcement as Honda as an exclusive engine partner has done little to arrest their declining performance, but it's pretty clear that everything is aimed at 2026 and the new regulations. This season is all about surviving, not thriving. But that shouldn't detract from just how bad the team has been this year. 3 points finishes between Lance Stroll and Fernando Alonso leaves them 9th in the Constructors' Championship, ahead of only Alpine, whose decision to remove Jack Doohan and replace him with Franco Colapinto has had exactly zero impact on their overall performance. In Spain, things did marginally improve for Aston Martin. Fernando Alonso was on his worst run of races since his debut season with the truly abysmal Minardi F1 team over 2 decades ago. In front of his home fans, Alonso earned his first points of the season. The upgrades at Imola represented a step forward in his quest for points, and if it hadn't been for a virtual safety car at Imola and an engine problem in Monaco, he might have had some sooner. Although the car still needs further improvements, especially in terms of race pace, straight line speed and tyre degradation, he is off the mark. Asked how he carries on finding the motivation to race in F1 after all these years, and how he had the drive to get out of the gravel to continue to a points finish, Alonso said, "Keep believing, there was no other choice. In the end, everyone comes here to the race to see you give your all, and it would be easy to throw in the towel and be content. But hey, people make sacrifices to come here. People bring their families, their children, and we on the track or the team, in the strategies, in the pit stop, in everything, we have to give our all. Sometimes we do well, other times we don't. Today, I don't think it was a race to remember, but at least everyone should know that we gave it our all, as always." It was great to see Alonso get off the mark, but that was the only positive for Aston Martin to take from the weekend, as Lance Stroll had to withdraw from the race after qualifying. The team announced a few hours after qualifying finished at the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya that Stroll would sit out the race and undergo a medical procedure after experiencing pain in his hand and wrist. This is believed to be linked to the fractures Stroll sustained in a cycling accident during the 2023 preseason, after which he had surgery and managed to compete at the opening round of the campaign. If you remember that race, Stroll was having to drive certain corners one-handed as he couldn't rotate his wrist properly to use the steering wheel. Just 2 weeks previously, he'd broken his wrist and a toe. To come back so quickly from such a serious injury was incredible. Speaking after Sunday's Grand Prix, Aston Martin's chief trackside officer Mike Crack said, "As it has been known already, the whole thing started in 2023. If you guys remember, there were injuries, and over the last weeks there has been mention of pain. We have seen it with Lance in 2023, when he fought his way back. They want to drive, they do not want to be out. Very often, I think they drive with probably more pain than they would even admit, to be able to drive, because this is what they love to do. Over the last weeks, there was a mention here and there, but you're never aware of how much it is, and over the weekend, I think it was just getting too much. I think at the end of the day, on Saturday after qualifying, Lance and his team decided it was better to go and check. Go and check again, and the recommendation was better not to race. It is horrible for Lance to have to sit out a race because of his injuries, but it created a problem for the team. With him having decided to back out after qualifying, it meant Aston Martin couldn't use a reserve driver to replace him. The real problems for Aston Martin, though, came from the rumours about what Stroll had done after qualifying. So after qualifying, media in the pit lane started reporting that Stroll had started swearing at team members when he got back to the garage, smashed equipment, and broken FIA procedure. Before I talk about all that though, if you're enjoying the video and want to catch some more news and analysis on the current F1 season, then make sure to press the like button and subscribe to F1 Reverse. Thanks a lot. So, straight after qualifying, when it was confirmed that Stroll wouldn't be racing on Sunday, the BBC reported he had lost his temper in the immediate aftermath, with word going around the paddock that Stroll had broken things in the garage and sworn at team members. Asked by the outlet to confirm Stroll had lost his temper in this way, an Aston Martin spokesperson simply said Lance was upset. The spokesperson also said the injury and the episode in the garage were unrelated. Speaking on the F1 show, Sky Sports commentator David Croft offered further insight on the incident. He said he'd learned that Stroll damaged a helmet by launching it at a garage wall. Crofty was also unconvinced by what Aston Martin had said about the incident. Lance has got form for punching walls before, albeit partition walls that wouldn't necessarily hurt him. I've heard that before in his time at Aston Martin. I don't buy the claim that we've been monitoring this for 6 weeks. If they've been monitoring it for 6 weeks, then surely for the good of the team, they wouldn't have put Lance into the car in qualifying if it's got to a point whereby he might not be fit enough to do the race. They'd bring Drugovich in. Lance puts in a lap that takes him P7 in Q1. He's obviously fit enough to drive well at some stage during that qualifying session. There is some sense to what Crofty says, but at the same time, it isn't impossible that something didn't happen in Q2, causing Lance's wrist problems to become aggravated, requiring him to withdraw from the race. If he'd been nursing an ongoing injury, then a snap of oversteer or a particularly heavy curb could have sent enough force through his wrist to cause a problem. Harry Rush, a mechanic on Lance Stroll's side of the garage, took to Instagram to say that Stroll's crew had definitely not been subject to swearing from the 26-year-old Canadian. Commenting on a post by Racing News that said that Stroll swore at his crew, Harry said, "Swore at team members? Absolutely not." Look, Aston Martin isn't going to come out and say, "Yeah, Lance punched a wall so bad he needs wrist surgery," especially if the recovery time from that surgery means he's out of the Canadian Grand Prix weekend. Whatever happens, Aston Martin need to have a replacement lined up ASAP in case Lance can't make it back. The obvious option would be to look to their 2 reserve drivers, former GP2 and F2 champions Felipe Drugovich and Stoffel van Dorn. However, there is a problem. The Le Mans 24-hour race is on the same weekend as the Canadian Grand Prix, and both drivers are scheduled to race in the historic endurance race. Also, Aston Martin Development Program driver member Jack Crawford, who currently competes in F2, wouldn't be an option given that he hasn't yet hit the required number of points for a super license. Plan A for the team is to have Lance fit and ready, but if that doesn't work, Crack said they have to have a backup plan. If the plan A does not work, then we need to pull plan B. Obviously, we always knew that Le Mans was going to happen, so we also had plans in place that if we need a driver that is doing Le Mans, we'll bring him. But at the moment, this is not the only question. The first choice driver would likely be Drugovich, who has also confirmed that he would drop Le Mans for the chance at an F1 drive. Having been a reserve driver for the team since 2022, he is desperate for the chance to prove himself and maybe get picked up by another team for 2026 for a full-time drive. But whether he has the chance or not, we'll have to wait and see. What do you think of the rumours surrounding Lance's injury? Do you believe Aston Martin, or are you more convinced by Crofty's theory? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and until next time, drive safe and bye for now.